What is up, guys? It's your boy Rick Kakis, and today, or I should say tomorrow, the Lightfall expansion launches for Destiny 2, and with it comes the all-new Strand Subclasses, and I'm sure most of you guys are going to want to hop in right away and try out Strand, put together some Strand builds, but of course, a main aspect of creating a build is selecting your exotic armor piece. So in this video, we're going to be showcasing the best exotic armor pieces for each of the 3 different classes that will synergize with Strand. So you can actually put together a build that's not just cool, but also powerful and able to compete within the new Lightfall content. And so, let's get started. We also have some kind of breaking Destiny 2 news, as Bungie just released the patch notes going live for tomorrow. So we know what exotic armor is getting nerfed, and it might have been stuff that you were planning on using, so knowing some alternatives is very important. Now, beginning here with the Titan, I think obviously the exotic armor piece that a lot of people were like, oh, it's a lock, I'm gonna use the Heart of INMOST Light. So, this has the armor perk Overflowing Light. If you use one of your abilities, your other abilities will recharge faster and be more powerful, stacks up to 2 times. This is one of the best exotics in the entire game, period, and it lets you absolutely spam your abilities. So obviously putting this on within Strand, you just get a bunch of Strand abilities. Well guys, as you can see right here, the Heart of INMOST Light is getting nerfed tomorrow. So the empowerment is only going to last 5 seconds instead of 10, and your class ability is going to recharge significantly slower, I think capping out at 50% instead of like 150% as it is right now. So again, it might be worth looking at some alternatives, although the heart will probably still be pretty good at a base level. Now, one alternative is definitely the next exotic armor piece we have here, the ARMAMENTARIUM. This just straight up gives you another grenade. And obviously, if the Strand grenades are good, like if the Threadling grenade turns out to be very, very powerful, this is just such an easy shoo-in. Well, the Threadling grenade is good, now you get 2 of them. Great, right? So definitely the ARMAMENTARIUM was already something people used on certain builds that you could interchange with the Heart of INMOST Light. So if the heart's getting nerfed, definitely a lot of eyes are shifting to the ARMAMENTARIUM. It's a very simplistic exotic perk, but very powerful. Now, another option here, this is going to sound kind of crazy, but bear with me, is the Crest of Alpha LUPI. This is one of the least used exotics. However, the exotic perk will generate an additional orb of power from supers and a healing pulse when your barricade is activated. Obviously, putting down your barricade and then healing yourself and actually nearby allies is pretty useful, especially when the Strand barricade looks pretty good. You can put on an aspect that makes it shoot forward like a Strand beam, essentially, and suspend enemies in front of it. So if you're going to be spamming the crap out of your class ability, now you can be healing as well. That's not bad, but really, I'm putting this on the list because of the extra orb of power generated. So guys, with Lightfall, the entire armor mod system works on being armor charged. You pick up an orb of power, you become armor charged, right? So generating an extra orb, if all of your mods work because of picking up orbs of power, generating one more could actually be quite a big deal. So just keep this one in mind. Now, moving on from there, guys, another option is the Mask of the Quiet One. So this is going to grant ability energy when you're damaged, and when you're critically wounded, you're going to regain maximum health on kills. So this could actually be good specifically with the Strand Titan because it has an aspect that provides Woven Mail, which should provide an extra degree of damage resistance. So if you're becoming extremely tanky and you're able to take a lot of damage, Mask of the Quiet One could actually synergize pretty well with that. But moving on from there, guys, the next one we have is definitely going to be something you should really look at using, the Synthoceps. So this is going to increase your melee lunge range and also improve melee and super damage when you're surrounded. Specifically with the Strand Titan, you actually have a melee that you get 3 charges for. You can use 3 times in a row, or space them out 3 times, whatever you want. We have never seen a melee in the game with 3 charges. That's a big deal. So obviously greatly improving that melee with the Synthoceps is a big deal. And likewise, another exotic option here is the Wormgod Caress. Melee kills increase melee damage for a period of time. Additional kills extend duration and increase effects. So again, if you have a melee with 3 charges, you can do some pretty nutty things with the Wormgod Caress. Like, that means the first 2 can be charging up and increased damage, and then your third charged melee attack will be absolutely schmackin'. So definitely an option to consider if you want to go in the direction of a melee-focused build. However, guys, it is time to move on from there to the Warlock. So the first exotic here is the VERITY'S Brow. So this has a pretty hefty exotic armor perk, but basically it boils down to final weapon blows with a damage type matching your subclass will grant you a ton of different benefits to your grenades. So you will also need strand weapons if you're using a strand subclass. Luckily, Bungie is introducing quite a few strand weapons within Lightfall. In fact, a lot of the Neomuna weapons are strand. Like we saw the SMG, I think, the hand cannon, again, quite a few of them are. So this is actually something that, again, was in the patch notes. As you can see, it will 100% work with strand. And obviously, if you are able to get those strand weapons, man, that is some pretty big benefits to your grenades, which, if the strand grenades are good, will be extremely powerful. Now, another option here is definitely a bit more niche, bear with me, it's the Apotheosis Veil. This sees like no play right now, but it's going to immediately regenerate your health, melee, grenade, and rift energy upon activating your super. Nearby allies recharge your class abilities faster. So the reason this is on the list is simply because your strand super for the Warlock is an instant activate, like one and done super. It's almost like Blade Barrage. So being able to like emergency press your super, panic super, is a very viable option. Then it's going to, shoot out, Needle Storm it's called, is going to shoot out, do a bunch of damage, generate threadlings, all this stuff, and then you get all your abilities back at once. If you are a build that is prioritizing intellect, prioritizing, getting orbs of power, you want to be getting your super. If there's anything similar to something like the Energy Converter Charged with Light mod in the new mod system that gives you a ton of your super back for throwing a grenade, this could actually be not bad. But moving on from there, guys, another thing to look at here is the Winter's Guile. So this says eliminating enemies with melee attacks increases your melee damage. Well, somewhat like the Titan, the Strand Warlock melee looks really powerful. Now, with this, you only get 1 charge. However, if you spam it quick enough, you can shoot your melee out 3 different times, as you can see. So potentially being able to pick off a wounded enemy with that first time and then get the other 2 shots of your melee with increased damage thanks to Winter's Guile could be pretty powerful. Now, moving on from there, in that same vein, we have the KARNSTEIN Armlets. Melee kills instantly restore a large portion of health and continue to restore health afterwards for a short duration. So again, if the Warlock Strand melee turns out to be good, this is something that you should look at. And you may be thinking, oh my goodness, wait, I can spam each melee 3 times? The Claws of AHAMKARA that grant an additional melee charge, like this should be absolutely broken, right? I can have 6 melee projectiles all at once. Unfortunately, as you can see right here, according to the patch notes, it will not provide an additional melee when equipped to Strand. So I guess Bungie kind of saw this combo coming and it was a little too powerful. So definitely avoid the Claws of AHAMKARA. On the flip side, something Bungie confirmed would work with Strand melees, as you can see, is the Fellwinter's Helm. So you can get that weakening blast for getting kills with those powered Strand melees. Moving on from there though, something that is confirmed to work with Strand in the patch notes is the Mantle of Battle Harmony. So this makes it so that if you get takedowns with weapons that have a damage type matching your subclass element, so you again will need Strand weapons, you get super energy. And while your super is full, you get a temporary boost to weapon damage for those Strand weapons. So again, like if you are wanting to spam your Needlestorm as much as possible and you have good Strand weapons, the Mantle of Battle Harmony is an easy equip. And then guys, the last thing, and honestly probably just the best general purpose exotic to put on, kind of like what a lot of Titan mains were planning to do with the Heart of Inmost Light, is just the Eye of Another World. It's going to highlight priority targets, and it improves the regeneration of your grenade, melee, and rift abilities. And it provides some airborne effectiveness, but really it just improves the regeneration of your abilities. So if you're on Strand, you just get your Strand abilities more often, all of them. So again, that's just great at a base level. However, we gotta move on from there to the Hunter, and the first one here is actually gonna be the Assassin's Cowl. Now, this is definitely utilized on a lot of arc melee builds, but it doesn't say anything about arc actually. It says powered melee final blows grant invisibility and restore a portion of health and shields. Finishers and final blows against more powerful targets increase the duration of the invisibility and the amount of health and shields restored. So your Strand Hunter melee is actually nuts. You throw out a rope dart, it will chain between enemies and then seek its way back to you, and you can press the melee button to actually catch it in mid-air and restore your melee energy. So if you are using that melee a lot and you're getting kills with it, potentially the Assassin's Cowl is going to be nutty. You're going to go invisible when you're utilizing that, what sounds to be incredibly powerful melee. Now moving on, I just want to quickly mention this one, the Wormhusk Crown. If you dodge, you get some health and shields. Again, like good at a base level if you're finding that your survivability is lacking with Strand. Now moving on from there, I do want to mention the MECHANEER'S TRICKSLEEVES. So this massively improves a ton of aspects about sidearms. Their ready and reload speed, when you're quickly wounded, swapping to your sidearm is going to increase the damage, all of this stuff. And the reason I'm mentioning this in this video is because there is a confirmed Strand sidearm that actually has a lock-in mechanism, kind of like the smart pistol from Titanfall. I don't know if you guys remember, if you're hip firing. So definitely if you do get that exotic early, if it's part of the season's pass, whatever, the MECHANEER'S TRICKSLEEVES is something to look at if you are really liking that exotic, if it turns out to be very powerful. Now moving on from there, another interesting one is just the 6th Coyote. Similar to the Armamentarium that just gave an extra grenade charge, this just gives an extra dodge charge. So if you are utilizing your dodge quite a bit within Strand, if it has fragments and so on that synergize very well with using your dodge a lot, this is going to benefit from that greatly. But moving on from there, again, the kind of best neutral game exotic to put on for Hunter, its version of the Heart and the Eye of Another World, is just going to be the Frosties. So it increases the grenade, melee, and dodge regeneration while sprinting. And I mean, you are running around constantly, you are sprinting way more than you're walking, so these are just going to provide more abilities for Strand at a base level. Again, great neutral game exotic. And then guys, the last exotic we're talking about here is the Bombardiers. Now, as you can see, it provides different bonuses depending on what subclass you're using. And according to the patch notes, if you are using a Strand subclass, the Bombardiers will have an explosion that severs enemies. And Sever is a Strand effect that is going to reduce the incoming damage from those enemies, so providing a degree of survivability to you if you are nearby these severed enemies is definitely nothing to scoff at. And so guys, that is it for the video. I hope you enjoyed and found this informative. If you did, please remember to help me out by simply rating and especially sharing this video. If you guys want to see more Destiny 2 content similar to this, don't be afraid to slap that subscribe button. If you want to get in touch with me and keep up to date with the latest channel activity, the best way is to follow me on Twitter at RickKakis. That is linked in the description down below. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, have a good day.